Hey folks, how you doing? My name's Jonathan O'Connell. Welcome to Glory Designs. Today I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration of building a model in Fusion 360. You can use these models for quite a few different things and in different ways. You can use the model to create a sketch, to have a machine shop make them, or to send for approval for a project for a client, or there's so many different things you can use the models for. You can 3D print. If you have a router CNC or a full-on regular CNC, you can send, or you can create the cam for that model to be machined, and you can take it out to your garage or shop or whatever and make it right there for yourself, or for make it for clients, or just make it for stock or inventory or whatever. You can do wholesale. It's just endless possibilities once you learn these skills for the CAD. You could learn CAD and just learn how to create spec sheets, and you can have a full-on business just doing that. You don't even have to be the one making these things. So that's what's really cool about learning these skills, knowing these things. So a little bit about me. I do woodworking, and I've used Fusion 360. This is what we're in today, sorry. In Fusion 360, I've created products that I created drawings for, exported my step files, sent that off to a machine shop, and then they made my products out of titanium. I had products made out of grade 2 titanium, stainless steel, various types of stainless steel, 304, 316, and quite a few things in aluminum. And then I had the aluminum anodized and engraved and all these cool things. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert still, even though I've created lots of things using this program. And I've got hundreds of products out there, not hundreds of different products, but hundreds of pieces of products out there in the wild, as they say. So I've got some experience, although I still don't really qualify. I don't consider myself a professional. I consider myself more of like a advanced hobbyist, if you will, at least with the CAD and CAM. I figured out the cam because I have a router CNC out in my shop / garage, and I wanted to be able to take my model and then create out on my CNC that exact product. And so I've done that quite a bit, and it is extremely advantageous to be able to make the model, and then from that model create all the tool paths, and then take that, export it, go put it on my CNC, and then straight up just make it right there. And then with wood as well as metal, you're gonna have your post processes, like if you want rounded edges and stuff, you're gonna have to take it over to the router and do that, and then you have to sand things, and there's a lot that goes on after you do all the machining. But anyway, so today I just wanted to do a quick tutorial on like a men's, I say men's, it can be any kind of, because Father's Day is coming up, so I'm creating like a men's valet tray. Put your phone in there, change, keys, wallet, whatever. So I actually earlier today made this video already, but I guess I moved my mic and it stopped recording my audio. So there's most of the video is you can see my lips moving, but I'm not saying anything. So I'm just gonna remake this real quick. So it's in Fusion 360. They have a not for commercial use free version. It does have a few less features, but it's mostly with the cam. So you're more restricted on cam. Like there's quite a few differences, but I would say for a beginner slash hobbyist slash even just light professional, I would say it's good enough. You know, you don't need every single feature available. So what I like to do is go off the center point here. And so I have a center. Sorry, my daughter walked in. I had to pause it real quick. So I go off the center triangle. You can also, or rectangle, sorry. But there's different ways you can do the rectangle. You can do a 2-point center rectangle, 3-point. I haven't used the 3-point yet, but I think 2-point is stock. You know, the stock option sitting up there. So I recommend going with the center rectangle personally. So you click on that. Oh wait, first of all, let's back up real quick. So you're gonna hit, once you create a new, click on the new design, right? Create sketch, and I always just orient my design off of this block right here. So the top, I'll click sometimes on top and just click on that box right there. And for me, that's just easier when you're spinning that box around to get different viewpoints of your design. So then click on that center point. Oh, forgot. Actually, I'm going to change this from millimeters to inches. All right. And then you can always just like quick orient. Like say you're like kind of slightly sideways and you want to view it from straight on top. Just click that and it will pull you around. All right. So what I'm going to do, I believe I did a 6x9 and then I click enter. So that first one I typed in 6 and then hit tab, it'll go to the other dimension and then you can put that in, then hit enter. Or if you want to do more there, I think there's maybe more options, I don't know. But I do that. I like to type in my dimensions because if you just free flow it, you just set it to stop on one of these squares or something, you can't as easily just change your dimension. Say I'm just like, oh, you know, I want to do 7x9. Then it's a lot easier because it's just sitting there. See, if you free flow it, go like that. See, you don't have those dimensions on the outside of the rectangle that you can just quickly click on and change the size. So that's why if I have something in mind, I'll always try to do it that way. All right. So what I'm going to do now, just click on that face. The quick key for extrude is E, and extrude is to give it some depth. So now we're going to go in the third dimension. So I'm going to be using 1-inch stock, I think hickory. I think that's what I have, hickory. I'm going to make these trays out of hickory. So we'll pull it up to a 1-inch depth. And now I don't want it to just be a square, because at that point I might as well just cut it on a chop saw, right? So I'm gonna hit F That'll be, make it a fillet. Now, see how I can like click that corner? I don't have to spin it around to where I can see each corner. I can actually just select through. I mean, sometimes you do, because if you're at a weird angle, you can select through the material to that corner. Right, so I want to, so I got 6-inch wide. I want to, oops, I want to do half that. That'll make an oval. So that'll meet it right in the middle with my fillet, making it a perfect oval. Right, so now what I want to do is, because I want this to be a tray with with an internal pocket, excuse me, I'll click on that top surface and then hit create sketch again. And then because I oriented my original sketch on the center point, I can just easily do that same center point. So basically gonna leave a 1/2-inch perimeter. So if it's 6 by 9, I want the pocket to be 5 by 8, making it the same ratio. And now, because I am doing my sketch on top of an already modified shape, I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to fillet the sketch instead of the extruded modification. There we go. Now we got a perfectly inset. I mean, there also is this offset tool. You can do an offset from the outside. It's essentially the same thing that I just did with drawing another square. So that's the cool thing about this program, as well as probably like every other CAD program, is that you can achieve the same outcome various different ways. And that's what I like about modeling things, is there's not just one way you have to do things. There's many ways to come out to the same outcome. So again, I'm going to hit E for extrude. Instead of pulling it out to add material, I'm going to push it in, and that will cut material. So you can join, cut, intersect, or create a whole new body. And so since it's 1-inch material, that will make it half the depth. I'm going to leave it at half the depth because some woods sometimes will, if you have a really thin bottom to a tray, it'll want to warp. So don't really want warping trays, because they don't have much value. Once you make them, they're all cut out. Say you cut them out and you get them all, separated from the scraps, because you're going to have to use a blank, which is bigger than the piece that you put on the machine. Then you cut it all out, go to the bandsaw, cut off all the edges and stuff that you don't want, because they're basically trash, scraps. I like to say they're firewood now, unless if I have tiny little wooden parts that I can maybe use them for. Usually they just go in the wood pile. But so let's say you do all that, you make like 20 trays, but because you only left like a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch on the bottom, now like what if you have a bunch of warping because of that, because the wood the wood tension of the fibers and the moisture absorption or loss, whatever, might cause the wood to warp. Then you're left with a bunch of wobbly trays that you're basically just going to have to give away because nobody's going to buy them. Or if you do sell them, people will complain, hey, this tray is wobbly. Why is it wobbly, man? Anyway, so what I'm going to do, go off on my little tangent there. Hey, I have had my fair share of sending people something that I made quickly, or I didn't really think too much about wood movement and moisture absorption, etc. And by the time it got to them, because they're in a totally different climate, say they're in like humid old Florida, or they're in a dry place, the wood now in its new environment is trying to change or trying to adapt, but it does it so quickly that it just warps, and then they're left with a wonky product that you didn't really account for because maybe you weren't aware that it, I mean, me personally, I wasn't aware that it would shift so quickly, so I didn't know that it would do that. So instead of a quick key, you also have these up here, these options. You just click fillet, and then click on that, because we're not going to leave that square. So I'm thinking of my design based on the router bits I have. So I have a 1/4 inch round over bit, right? So I can just use that, round over both edges, and then leave it kind of like a nice well-rounded edge. I think that would look nice. Kind of like a thinking kind of like a nice casino table or something. It's got the nice rounded soft edge there. At least that's what it makes me think of. I don't know. I don't frequent casinos or often enough. Definitely not these days. All right, so the chamfer does chamfer feature. So you can click on modify right here, and I want to put a chamfer on the bottom edge there. I made my quick key to be B. You can modify the quick keys. They do come stock, but yeah, think about 0.1, and that's going to depend on myself once I set up my router table, when I put my chamfer bit in, because it doesn't make any sense to actually try to machine that, because you'd have to flip it upside down. You could machine it, but personally I think it would just be way quicker and way better just to use a chamfer bit on a router table or even a palm router. Because setting up the CNC for another operation and then making sure things are aligned well enough to not have it dig in on one side more than the other, it's not worth the risk, unless if you're just really advanced in your know-how on machining. Okay, so what I also like to do, say I have someone who said, hey, can you make something like this for me? And you say, yeah, let me design something for you. I want to try to show you. Or even if you're not totally sure what they want and you're like, I think I got an idea, let me draw it up and I can show you. So that's what's so awesome about Fusion 360. You can draw up the design. You can even do this. Hit A. You can make it, let's see. You can make it look like wood. I thought there was another. Oh, there it is. Say you know that they're going to want it in walnut, or you want to suggest walnut because, you know, walnut's a beautiful wood. It can be difficult to machine at times if it's like super dry, or sometimes if it's super like curly maple or walnut, like if it's got a lot of swirling and stuff, that can actually be extremely difficult to machine. But something that looks about like this, you know, it's kind of straight grain, your standard typical walnut, that it usually machines really well. It'll have a lot of fraying, but that'll go away pretty quick with a quick sanding. A lot of fraying on like that, you know, the edges where it's making a pocket, you'll get a bunch of like fraying, but it doesn't usually just straight up chip out. So walnut's a good option. Plus it's beautiful. It's a dark, kind of like warm, manly. But I did say I'm gonna go with hickory or something. But I don't think they have hickory. So that's one thing. Kind of limited on kind of limited on the materials that you can show people as an option. But even like oak is actually quite similar in color and grain pattern to hickory. So you could just choose something similar, say, hey, it'll look something like this, you know, if you just want to show your client. And then say, like me, I have a Glowforge, so I can offer people custom engraving. I don't have any engraving thing. I don't have anything specific set up right now, so I'm gonna upload my logo. Glory to Glory Designs. So I guess because of the orientation I drew this in, I'm not totally sure why it puts it upside down like that. I don't know. But I'm sure there's better ways to orient this directly in the center. But for me, this is more just a visualization, proof of concept. Oops. There we go. So now you can show them like, hey, client, this is about what this would look like. Or even if, say you have an idea, but you don't really want to try to make it happen until you have buyers, right? Say it's going to take a lot of work to even do the first one, because if you're machining things and it might take you a while, you can go over here to this manufacturer part of the program, and you can then turn and set up your tool paths. Now with the free version, you can only do one tool per saved tool path. So if you wanted to cut the pocket with a bigger end mill and then do the profile cutout with a smaller one, like a 1/4 inch, you would have to set it up 2 different times, basically. I mean, you can set your 0 one time, but you'd have to set up 2 different operations, basically, which isn't really that big of a deal because you can get by with it, but it will take twice as long, basically. So I usually I'll just use a 1/4 inch end mill for like everything, unless if it's just like something where I want a different profile, like a juice groove on a cutting board or something like that, I will set it up in two operations. I'll use a bull nose, like 1/2 inch bull nose bit or whatever. I think I have a 3/4 inch too. But then I'll, do my profile with that bit for the juice groove, and then I'll change it out and change the file, and then do the perimeter, and get the profile cut out, or whatever I got going on with that project. But yeah, so that is that completed. Now, further on, showing proofs for clients, you can do something like this where you render the design. You can say, hey, look, here's this design. I think walnut looks way nicer, at least for a visual. I want to show you this design I have, and if you like it, I can basically make it exactly how it looks. And this is what I did when I made tables for the school my kids go to. They needed some new tables, and I pitched to make tables out of cherry, and basically what I did there was, I donated, because it's a nonprofit school, I donated my labor, but collected enough money for materials from them. That way it was kind of a wash. I'm not having to put in hundreds of dollars towards the material and donate my labor. So I basically donated my labor, and that's nice for a nonprofit. You're doing something nice. It's a donation, and it's also a tax write-off as a business. So it's a win-win-win. A win for me, they win, and just everyone wins all around, because they got some nice cherry tables. But anyway, so I basically this is the same process I did. I pitched them the idea of some nice cherry tables that would last longer than, remaking some plywood and 2x4 ones they had. And then I came on Fusion and I drew up a design, and I sent them over some screenshots of the design, and they liked it. And so what I did from there was I created a cut list from my design. You can go in, I'll show you on this. So what I did here is I made it to where these are individual pieces, right? So right here, go to the design. So to make it simpler for getting measurements, suppress that feature so that I can select. So I can say, what's that style, what's that style length from there to there? 6 inches. So I want to leave room for error, so I'll do 6 inches and an eighth, 6 and an eighth or something, a little bit over. Then I can trim it off once I get everything cut out. Probably 6 1/4, to be honest. You'd want to cut out, 4 pieces at 6 1/4. Yep. 4 pieces at probably 13 3/4. You'd want 2 pieces at 17 1/4 by 8. So basically I can use my model here and I can create my cut lists. So that is also another advantage, is that I have a great visualization that I can use for proofs. I can get approval for designs for clients. I can also just make sure that I have an idea, but when I sketch it out, it's not going to be to proportion exactly. It's usually just an idea that you sketch out. So at least doing it on here, you can see it in the actual proportion that it's going to be in real life. And, when I drew this out, originally this bookshelf, I drew it out to fit the widest book that I own, and also, give it a little bit of extra. So I don't want it to look funky with, like the books looking tiny on it, and then, the shelves just being massive compared to the books I'm going to put on it. And then just want to make sure that like these stiles and rails don't look too thick, because I think those are 2-inch thick, but when I round them over, it's gonna look less bulky, but it will give it that support that I want. And what you can do is, because it's parametric modeling, you can change the thickness of some of these parts, and it will change it for the whole design, and it doesn't just like mess everything up. You don't have to go back through and realign everything, but because you drew things from this corner of that piece to the edge of another piece or whatever, it'll actually kind of like adjust everything, and it keeps everything intact. And that's what's great about this type of modeling. It's not super basic, but it's also not so complicated that it's like impossible to figure out. It does take some time to figure out how to get things aligned how you want them, but once you figure that out, it's you can come in and you can draw things all day long. Like yesterday, I sat down and I ordered some bottle openers that I'm gonna make. I ordered the little insert piece that goes in there. I'm gonna make some bottle openers and offer them at the farmers market to people for Father's Day gifts or something like that, or just they might be regular sellers. And so I came in here and I drew this design, but how I drew it is kind of out of the ordinary. It's not, you wouldn't expect that I had to draw these big old circles. You'd think I just connected a line and arched it, but I couldn't find a good way to do that, and I like how it looked, so I just drew these big circles, and then I used this tangent constraint to connect that circle edge to that and to that at the same time, and then that to the same ones. And then I can just come in here and select that center shape along with these other shapes. You can click Control and add to your selection there, and then you can just hit E and extrude that whole shape. Or I think I had to extrude all of these inside pieces too. Otherwise, it would just be a completely through hole for the design where the plate is, where the plate gets screwed in, which that actually wouldn't really work with how this is. So, yeah, with that, and then I can actually go in, say this hole actually needs to be bigger. Say I want it 1.7. That adjusts, and then I click Finish, and it adjusted everything. Like that pocket that I have connecting on the edges of that hole, it adjusted along with the diameter of that recess. So if you connect shapes to the edges of other shapes on your sketches, and then you extrude those either at a push or pull, cut or add whatever feature you're needing to do, it will adjust it with all those other steps. Like, so I didn't have to go back through and adjust my extrude on all these different steps to make things align how I wanted them to. I think that's, honestly, that's like super cool, super handy. So you basically draw it like one time and that's it. You know, you don't have to go back through and change the drawings and change all these different steps just to make it, to adjust it to a new sizing. So I could go in here and I could adjust this again, say, oh, you know, that was too big, maybe I can go actually, you know, go back to how I had it. And see, because I have that line connected to that circle, it adjusts automatically. And then all I have to do is, you know, finish sketch and it adjusts everything back to how it was. Anyway, so that is the beauty. So this is the first one I drew, and then I basically drew the exact same one to show you guys because my audio disappeared. Super cool, huh? How that works. Technology, sometimes it can be a tremendous gift or a tremendous burden. Sometimes I accept the burdens along with the gifts that it is, because I think most of the time the benefits of technology and how we have things set up outweigh the burdens or the downfalls of it, or whatever whatever I'm trying to say. There's a word I'm looking for that won't come to mind because that's how my mind works. I'm like, oh, what's this word that says exactly, encompasses exactly what I'm trying to say? It's usually nowhere to be found in my thoughts. And then, by the time I hit end on this video, it'll pop back in my head. But anyway, drawbacks, that's what I'm looking for. The drawbacks of technology sometimes are outweighed by the benefits. And I think that's the case with this kind of technology, is that yes, there's a learning curve. Yes, because it's the free version, you're limited on some of the features, but if you can learn workarounds for those limitations, and you can, as your business, as your clientele advances or grows or whatever, you can upgrade to the paid version and have full features, can have every option available to you. And I mean, even if not, you can still create, say you don't want a machine at your business anymore because, you're a one-man show, you just want someone else to make them, you design them, you sell them, but you want another shop to make them for you. You can send the sketch, you can send the drawings with the dimensions, the spec sheet, I call it, and then like step files and all that, whatever they're asking for, you can have them make it, and all you have to do is just design it and then find buyers for it. And it's not just products that you're buying from Alibaba, engraving and then sending it off to someone. It's something you designed. And I think that's worth a lot more than being yet another laser engraving company that does nothing more than buy cheap wooden products that are made off in China in the thousands, and then you buy them super cheap because they're over there making them for pennies on the dollar, and you're buying them for a couple bucks. So they're making them for like 25 cents each, and then you buy them for $2 each. They're making their money. And then so basically what it all comes out to is there's just a bunch of the same thing, just with different laser engravings on them. And nobody really has anything just truly original. And in this way, you can have things truly original. And you can even make jigs for your shop. I've made jigs to go along with my CNC machine, jigs for my lathe, jigs for all sorts of things, custom holders for tools or for drawer organization or containers, packaging materials. I've designed tons of things with Fusion 360, and I've yet to feel bored with it and like it's not serving me well. So if you haven't downloaded it, I suggest go ahead and follow along with this quick tutorial, design this tray yourself, and then play around with different features. Maybe design something else, something a little more complicated. Anyway, I think this video has been long enough and you've heard me talk way too much. So I'm gonna sign off here, and if you have suggestions, please put them in the comments of future videos. I'll show you how to make more complicated things with different features of the program. I've even thought about doing kind of like tutorial video classes where different projects that hit on different features of the program, and then go into how to export for 3D printing, how to export step files and STL files. Well, I guess STL files would be for 3D printing, but how to do these different things, how to set up the drawings and everything for if you want it machined somewhere else. So if that interests you, go ahead and click on that subscribe and like, and follow along, because if I get some interest in that, then I will do those classes and those tutorials for you guys. That way you guys can learn how to do this, and you can run your own businesses however you want. So yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. God bless. Peace out.